But this week, what I want to talk to you guys about is this concept of a long-term game. Okay, I'm going to explain that, but like if I was going to title it, okay, the long-term game. And the reason that I thought about this, it sparked from several conversations with students. And so I thought, well, you know what? Let me just consolidate the advice that I've been giving into like one chat. And here's the thing. You guys have one of two things, okay? You either know the long-term destination or you have an idea of like a long-term direction that you want to head with your life, right? So like in a lot of capacities for me, it's like I have a long-term destination of like fitness, right? But I don't necessarily know like the exact end game. So that would be like an example of that. For some of you guys, right, like for James, it's mixologist. That's the long-term game. That's where he's headed. Awesome. So it's, you know, it can be different capacities, but I know that you guys have those things for you. And so the advice that I've been giving revolves around three different things. And so the first one that I'm going to elaborate on is set up several short-term games that you can be playing that ultimately are going to get you to that long-term game. And so why would you do that, and what do I mean by that? First of all, so what are some short-term games? School is a short-term game, right? You're going to do this for 4 years, which seems like forever, but it's not. A job, right, that you're gonna apply for and do for income along the way. That, you know, I know, Emily, you work at Carl's Jr., right?
Yes.
That's your short-term game. That is not a long-term game, right? Okay.
Oh no, I want to go to McDonald's at university.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying. And then any other personal pursuits, right, that are just along your way. And I can't necessarily say what those things are for you, but you also have personal pursuits that are probably not a part of your long-term game. But do those things to the best of your ability, because you never know what lessons you're going to learn in those short-term games unless you really fully apply yourself to them, and you never know what kind of networking opportunities you're going to make in those short-term games, right? And so I found myself yesterday, right, driving home, and I tell you guys personal stories because that's the best thing that I have to give you guys some context, right, into the perspective that I have. So I was driving home yesterday, and I got a message that is there's going to be an opening for a job position from an organization that I was previously working at, and there are some people who are still a part of the organization who think that I would be a really good fit for a position that's about to open up, right? And advocated that I apply for it when it opens, and that they would also have my back and promote me to have that position, right? So how freaking cool, right? Something that I left, but that I worked really hard at, opened the door to potentially go back to that. And I don't know if I will. I really, really like what I'm doing now and here. But what an amazing opportunity to potentially, go a different route. And how amazing is it that people thought of me for that position? So yesterday, I'm driving home and I got teary-eyed, like a little baby, because I was so grateful that somebody thought of me for such a really amazing position, right? And the fact that someone is considering that for me, and but then I was also reflecting on. So in the moment, it just feels oh my gosh, how great, how nice, lovely, all positive stuff. And then it went to well, but I also logically, right, after thinking, I was well, you know what though, I worked really hard when I was there, right? And so in then talking to you guys, right, I was able to create that opportunity because I worked hard in that organization, in something that I left. And so then I would come to you guys and advocate. You never know what's going to happen as a result of working hard in those short-term games, right? That was a short-term game left, and now there, maybe an opportunity to go back, but you just never know what opportunities are going to come up as a result of the dialogue that you have with people and the relationships and the networking that you do. And so really make sure that when you're playing those short-term games that you're giving your best self and that you're working hard, because like I said, you never know where they're going to lead. So that was the first one. The second thing that I then wanted to advocate for, and I got a lot of, this was one that I got a lot of responses on as well, was be the person that sees yourself doing it, right? Be the visionary for your life and where you see it going. And the reason that I would advocate for that is because some people aren't going to see it, right? That's why you get to be the visionary. You get to be the person who creates your life and develops the long-term game. So be the person that sees it happening, because if you aren't the person who sees it happening first, it's not. The chances of it happening are significantly reduced, right? And the reality is in this life, I firmly believe this. You can do whatever you want. And I'm talking about in a very positive sense. Yeah, you can do a lot with regard to the negative sense. But with regard to where you want to go, where your objective is, be the person who sees it happening. Because you're going to create that, and you absolutely, it's 100% in your control. And so see it. And then once you see it, right, then objectively and strategically set up how to get there, right? So put yourself, again, putting yourself in environments to help you learn along the way, whatever. But, I heard this quote, and I think it's a good one. A dream without a plan is just a dream, which is just a really nice thought, right? Oh, how nice. But if you want it to be your reality, then create a strategic plan. And if you don't know a strategic plan, oh my gosh, the internet is amazing, right? If I want to increase anything, I can type in, and someone else has probably already done it, and they will outline a game plan. And if you at least start to implement some things, right, it might not be perfect, somebody else's plan, and something else might work better for you, but if you're strategically implementing something, and then you figure out what doesn't work or what works, you can keep the things that work and you can change what doesn't work, but you gotta fully submerge yourself into it and give it a shot, and then commit to it. One thing for me is I have to write down what is my strategic game plan going to be, and then that way as a result of writing it down, and this is just what works for me, but as a result of writing it down, I then hold myself to it, right? If I write it down, then it's okay, you've written it down, it's out of your brain, you see it, you know that there's at least a course of action to be taking. It might not be the best one, but commit to it, and then see what happens as a result of doing it, right? Tweak and rearrange as you go, but have a foundational thing and a strategic plan that's going to keep you, perpetuate you, and allow you to go further. Fair enough? Cool. So, the last thing that I have for you, okay, is recognize that failing and failure are two different things. So, failing is a means by which you figure out that it did not work. I failed at this. That does not make me a failure. That means I failed at this. And failing has a means by which you can overcome. And then the answer to that failing might not be super obvious right in the moment, but there's a means by which you can overcome it, right? Plenty of people are successful that have done it that would tell you they're no different than you. You can do it, okay? It's just a means by which this avenue did not work, right? And if we're playing a long-term game, then be ready to overcome some things. And that's important, right? And so failure is once we've quit. Once we've decided we're throwing in the towel, we're done. That would be then at that point failure, right? So take those lessons from failing, and also take the lessons from overcoming. Because one thing that I So I told you guys, like, when we first did Motivation Mondays, like, I am someone who, like, self-doubts a good amount, right? Like, that has been my thing for a long time. And in that, what I'm, like, rearranging my mind to, like, think more about is I work really hard, right? Like, I know one thing about myself, and that's my work ethic is very, very strong. I can look in the mirror and say that. And so in saying that, I've earned that for myself, right? I've been consistent enough in working hard that I know that about myself. And so what I would advocate for then is develop that frame of mind, earn that frame of mind to where you know that you work hard, so that when you see when you see that you've failed, right? It's temporary, it's not a failure. You failed, you figure out what didn't work, and you trust yourself and you know your work ethic well enough that you know you'll overcome that. And that you can succeed. And then that, and it's a long-term game, like, expect to fail sometimes. And then be confident when you overcome those failures. Because when you overcome it, when you see that you failed again, you're going to be real confident in the fact that you know that you will, because you've done it before, right? So, those are my 3 things. That's what I have. Play a long-term game. That's how I would say to do it, right? Be the person who sees yourself doing it. Set yourself up for wins in the short-term game, and be ready to fail.